Good afternoon. Welcome to the January 14th, 2019 Park and Rec Commission meeting. Got a new year here, so we have a few new members, and we're going to go around the room and do some introductions, I think, here. I'll start off. I'm Chris Vork, the chairman. Just tell a little bit about yourself. I work at 3M. I'm a report and data analyst. I've been on the Park and Rec for 4 years, I believe, and this is my first year as chairman. And Tom mentioned we should say what we believe is good or bad about the park system. I would say good. I think we're fairly well funded. The city appears to care about their parks and funds it fairly well. Opportunity that we have, I think, is there's some areas of the town that are maybe underserved by community parks. But anyway, I'll start.
Jim Bastian with the New Ulm Baseball Board, and year number 2 on the Park and Rec Commission. Looking forward to the potential bubble dome project getting going. That's about it.
Hello, I'm Bob Skillings. I work as a financial advisor at South Point Financial Credit Union in New Ulm. This is my second stint on the Park and Rec Commission. The first one started in 1992 and ended in 2000, so it's been a few years since then. But I look forward to being on the Park and Rec Commission again. I don't know of any other community that would have a park system like we have. And so I look forward to being on this commission and supporting it, and looking forward to the new RENU projects happening.
Dave Christian, Ward 1 City Councilor. I think this is my 3rd year starting on it. As most of you know, I was employed by the city before this as a building official. I was on numerous other boards and commissions. This was one I wasn't on. So when I became a councilor, I got the green light. Okay, you can go to Park and Rec. But I do enjoy serving on the Park and Rec board.
Melanie Griebel. I'm a mom of 6. I work at Best Western in hospitality. I'm actually very proud of the parks that we have in New Ulm because they're very clean and we have a lot of them.
I'm Gene Slutterdahl. I'm retired, and I'm completing my 6th and final year on the commission. And I'm an avid user of the Recreation Center. I've been able to gather over the years and talking with people from other communities what a wonderful recreation facilities we have here in New Ulm. And there are people who they envy what we have and the opportunities that we have here. So it's been a real pleasure to be a part of this system.
Terry Baumgart. I'm like Gene, this is the beginning of my last year on the commission, and I'm a big trail user. I'm a bicycler, and that's kind of my favorite part of the system.
Hi, I'm Leroy Floor, work for the Postal Service with New Ulm Baseball Association. I've learned a lot since I've been here. This is my 4th year, and I enjoy being on here, and I look forward to the RENU projects because I think they're going to be good, and that's about it.
I'm Laura Evans. I recently moved back to the New Ulm area about 1.5 years ago, but I was born and raised here. I work up at the New Ulm Public High School as a paraprofessional. It's very convenient with my kids' school hours, so this is a real blessing. I was invited by Melanie and encouraged by her, and I really see the parks have changed a lot from when I was growing up, and I'm excited for what my girls get to experience and what they get to play with and what opportunities they get to have with the New Ulm Parks and Rec program now.
My name is Tom Schmitz. I'm the director of the Park and Recreation Department, and I've been doing that for 12 and a half years now already. Prior to that, I was with State Parks, Minnesota State Parks, for 14 years, 10 at Flandreau and 4 at Blue Mound State Park. My wife's a social worker in town. Our 2 boys are 27 and 22. One of the greatest aspects of my job presently is being able to work on the RENU projects. I'm very excited to work on the RENU projects, our second round of local sales tax. And an opportunity for growth, I guess, in our department and system and community are serving some of the underserved neighborhoods. We've got a number of undeveloped parks, and I think a challenge and an opportunity in the future is going to be to rally around serving some of the underserved parks and new developments in our community. We've not developed a new neighborhood park in my tenure yet with the city. So I think that may be coming with some of our new neighborhoods.
I'm Cheryl Corman. I'm the Assistant Park and Rec Director. I've been with the department for 23 years, about half of those as the Assistant Director. And I had the opportunity to serve the city on the first round of projects with Bob Skillings, and I'm looking forward to what's to come in the future. And my favorite part of my job is Tom always says that we're in the business to put smile on people's faces, and that's my favorite part of the job. And no 2 days are the same.
All right, thank you, and welcome to the new folks. So let's get going into our agenda here. In your packet, you should have gotten the agenda for this meeting. Everyone's had a chance to look at it. Is there any changes, or do we have a motion?
I move we accept the agenda as we received it.
Second the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to accept the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right. Moving on to the minutes from the December 10th meeting. That was also in your packet. And is there any comment or changes, amendments to it? If there are none, could we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. We accept them.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve the minutes from December 10th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next is the department activity report. That was also in your packets. If everyone had a chance to look at that, are there any questions for Director Schmitz, or is it Director Corman? I had one minor question. The membership looks like it's kind of stabilized the last 3 years. Does individual membership mean people, or does that mean so like I have a family of 5? Is that 5 people, or is that 1 person?
Individuals are individuals.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and then the other question is, so how does that relate in, like, how many check-ins? Has check-ins been trending up or down through the year? I see the December totals, but
That can fluctuate on any given month. When I report in on that, I usually put in like the heaviest traffic days. You know, I can run a report, and the report will show me Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It'll show me every day and how many check-ins that we have between hours.
okay.
And it fluctuates. I mean, we used to not be busy in the summer months, but we're finding out that with the heat, humidity, and bugs, we're busy in the summer as well.
Okay.
It's kind of weather related, what's going on, what
Sure.
time of the year. I mean, it really does change.
It can fluctuate, huh?
Yeah, even the days of the week that are the busiest changes from month to month. It's usually the beginning of the week is busier than the end of the week.
Okay. Cool. So
And the numbers, as far as stabilizing, they have stabilized the last few years. The one thing that's a little bit different in those numbers is that depending on how Medicare supplements work with their memberships and what programs they're running on any given year, because they change every year, your admissions might be higher one year and your membership's lower one year, and then you might see that flipped. Because depending on how they compensate the city is how that number shows.
Okay.
Like some will only pay per visit. Well, that's an admission. Some of them give you a per month fee per person, and that's considered a membership revenue. So those numbers fluctuate from year to year depending on the program.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions on the activity report? Oh,
Chair Vorwerk and members, this brings up a point that we create this activity report monthly, but if there's some data or information or changes that you'd like to see to our monthly activity report, please let Cheryl or myself know. We want to put information in the activity report that's relevant to the commission and the city.
okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other comment, we'll have that filed, and we will go on to city council meeting recap. Director Schmitz.
Thank you, Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. As usual, there's been 2 city council meetings since our last commission meeting. There's 2 city council meetings per month normally. December 18th saw the city council adopt the 2019 budget, and they also authorized the Lutheran Social Services senior dining lease for 2019 at the community center with no increase in fee. Finally, they accepted the donations you recommended they accept. And then more recently, here in January, on the 8th, the City Council appointed Laura Evans and Bob Skillings on the commission. They also approved the Johnson Park RENU concepts and ordered construction documents. They tabled the annual city performance measurement survey to possibly include more questions, including the possibility of more park and recreation questions, and just possibly distribute more surveys citywide. They also authorized nomination of the Herman Monument as a National Historic Landmark. They authorized awarding the Recreation Center Boiler System Replacement Project to ISG Incorporated out of their Mankato office. And then they authorized including a first base right field observation deck in the Johnson Park RENU design and bidding phase. Finally, they tabled consideration of adding a right field observation deck to Miller Park. Those are the items that the City Council has reviewed from our department and commission over the past month.
Thank you, Director Schmitz. Does anyone have any questions for the director?
I would have one question. Could you give some insight? The Park and Rec authorized a slight increase to Lutheran Social Services for the Meals on Wheels and the use of the facilities, and the City Council decided to keep it stable. Could you give us some insights onto how they viewed it versus how we viewed it? I recall the article in the Journal, but just wondering if you could give shed some further information on that.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Sledadal and Commissioners. My understanding is simply that the council, it's 5 citizens, that the council decided to have a 0% increase or have no increase in the rent or the lease rate by the meal service, Lutheran Social Services at the community center. Why and how they made that decision, I'm not quite certain. I don't know if Councilor Christian would have anything to add.
I did want to comment on one item that the council had talked about. We got the report of what meals are served in New Ulm, what are served in the county. And to my understanding, Tom, the directive the 2 department heads were given for the food service was, why don't you go to the county and see if they'll start kicking in? They kick in nothing, and I believe I'm correct, was it almost 50% of those meals go out of New Ulm?
Correct, yes. And so, yes, the council did request that Lutheran Social Services work with the Park and Rec Department to recommend the county assist with financing it, along with the surrounding cities that have residents who receive meals made in New Ulm, and the meals are delivered and consumed in neighboring cities. So that's something we plan to do throughout the year here in 2019 is check into those auxiliary funding sources of other cities and the county.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
do you know if United Way adds any funds to that program?
I'm not positive right offhand. I think they may, but I'm not certain.
I think they donate a lot to the CAS programming, but I don't know about the meals.
Yeah, I don't believe I saw that in the report. That I might be wrong, but I didn't see that.
In your comment about almost 50, sometimes it's
Right. Playing it safe, 50%.
And I did see the council meeting, and just a note about the numbers, when Counselor Schultz had said that they had gone down, there was a note on that report stating that the December numbers weren't in there, so
Correct.
maybe that is why he thought they were down, but they're really not down. So, just a clarification.
You know, another element with this topic is that it's an annual lease. So there's an opportunity annually to consider changes to that lease agreement. You know, Lutheran Social Services is a private nonprofit organization, just like many other private nonprofit organizations, and they have a variety of different revenue and expenditure sources and needs. So there might be an opportunity to look more closely with them in depth with their organization.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Director Schmidt. Any other comment or question? Otherwise, we'll move on to old business, the RENU update. Director Schmitz, would you like to?
Yes, I'll move up to the podium to talk about a couple of updates. So I think we all understand that one of the 7 projects is Herman Heights, and the Herman Heights project is simply street and parking lot infrastructure mainly. It's to realign Monument Street, relocate Monument Street, and then, which is also the entrance to the park, and then install, paved parking lots, parking areas. It's going to include curb, gutter, storm sewer, sidewalk, street lighting, and parking lot lighting also. So you see here, we're still working on the concept design with various staff members and the consultants, Bolton and Mink. This is a concept we're at now. It's not completely refined yet. If you have any specific questions, I'll try to answer those. One component we're looking at doing here is to shift this lower parking area a little bit further to the New Ulm West. You can see this is existing Monument Street here. And we're thinking if we move this parking area here a little bit further west, we'll have more green space, usable park green space up here by the shelters and so on. This park green space out here is really not used for anything, so we can move some of the parking here and create more usable park green space in that area. Buses, we're going to have bus parking and the ability for buses to get in and out and around the parking area. We certainly need to continue having Monument Street serve the residences, the 2 residences back up in here. This is we'll call this the playground parking lot. So there's going to be 2 different parking areas. And also we're looking at the medians to be stormwater retention areas. So they'll be like, rain gardens, things like that to assist with stormwater management. The newer concept is also proposing to push this parking a little bit further closer to Center Street. So right now, we're still in the concept phase. And as staff and the consultants got the concept refined, we'll be presenting that to the Park and Rec Commission, of course, the RENU Oversight Commission or Committee, And then finally to the city council for them to authorize construction documents be drawn off of the concept. Any questions about Herman, the Herman project? Okay, we'll jump into Johnson. This is just a rendition of the Johnson Park German Street facade. We have lowered the entrance a little bit here. There's going to be ramps coming in from both the New Ulm North and South behind this landscaping. There's some brick added to the facade. And of course, a widened entryway there, a significantly widened entryway. This is the concept that's been approved and that we're working on construction documents of the grandstand itself. There's a lowered seating area behind both dugouts. We're removing a row of seating back in here to widen the central concourse. And then creating a new concession stand on top of the new maintenance building by first base. And widening the entrance here as we already spoke about. And then we talked a little bit about the first base deck. This is a concept, a sketch of the first base observation deck, right field. That will be put in a bid package as an ad alternate. So we'll know exactly how much this addition costs, and then at some point down the road, ultimately the city council will make a decision as to whether or not it fits in the RENU funding, other funding, or no funding. Here's the new concession stand area. There will be one unisex, fully handicap accessible restroom at that concourse level near the concession stand. Any questions or comments on Johnson? You know, our plan is to have construction documents and bid this out this winter for summer construction. We plan to have the high school baseball season available at Johnson Park, but then in early June close Johnson Park down entirely for construction. So the amateur season of the Brewers and the VFW and Legion games cannot be played at Johnson. They'll be played at Miller Park and elsewhere. The plan is to have this RENU construction done by the end of this year, you know, by Christmas of 2019. And then because in 2020, the last 3 weekends of the summer in 2020, we have the double state tournament coming. And we want to focus the rest of this year and next year on the field surface and other smaller touch-ups in preparation of that double state tournament. So that's an update on Johnson and Herman. The update on the dome is that we're still having preliminary concept discussions with the college on the possibility of that facility being on city and college property on 5th North, New 27, across the street to the New Ulm south of Milford Heights. That's still in the discussion phases. And then at the rec center, the 4 projects at the rec center, we're going to be asking the city council tomorrow to hire an architect. And in the very near future, we're going to be making a decision on the construction management delivery method. One new tidbit that did come out of the oversight committee meeting recently was a concept of childcare and whether or not a daycare center or childcare center should be or could be added to the recreation center campus. So that question is something that the community and the city will continue to look into. So that's the RENU update.
Thank you. Any, sorry.
Regarding Johnson Park, are there any plans as a part of this, the remodeling at Johnson Park to improve the pedestrian gateway between Miller and Johnson Park? Where you can walk from the one park to the other? Are there any plans along that line?
Well, that's a great question. Presently, you can get between the two parks on some wonderful sidewalks, boulevard sidewalks, 3rd North and German Street. But beyond that, we don't have a great system or avenue, so to speak, to move from Miller Park to Johnson Park, kind of within the parks.
Yeah, within
so
the
to speak.
parks.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're within the parks, you can, I think they're secure that you could move within the parks if you wanted to do that without having to, you know, you could pay at one and
Yeah.
go to the other if you had that. But it's a rather treacherous route going through there.
Yeah, you know, it's something we're continuing to look at and consider. It's not part of the RENU project. The RENU project is just specifically legislated for the Johnson Grandstand. But that question of connectivity between the two parks is still remains a question. And it's something that staff and the user groups are continuing to discuss. Any other questions about RENU or those facilities?
I did have a citizen ask me, I think they had also ran it by you, about having the information on the Johnson, the person who founded all that or whatever, if there was more information that was actually going to be put by the field so that more of the citizens knew who they were.
Yeah, that's a great question. There is going to be historical interpretive information at the park, and definitely on the facade, the German Street facade, so you can read about the history of the facility even when there's not a game going on or even when you can't get inside. So yes, there will be interpretive panels on the exterior of the German Street facade. And one of those panels will go into depth about Fred Johnson.
All right, thank you for the update, Commissioner Schmidt. So let's go to new business now. Donations.
Thank you, Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. We have some donations offered to the city this month. I'll read those into the record. The first group is for the German Park Amphitheater, the Outdoor Performing Arts Center at German Park. We have a $50 cash donation from Sharon Heck. We also have a $10,000 pledge from Dr. Ann Vogel with conditions. And her condition simply is that if funding is still necessary when we get closer to the project, that she requests the city match her donation. The next group is for archery programs. We have $1,000 cash offered from the New Ulm chapter of the Isaac Walton League. Additionally, for Riverside Park programming, we have $1,000 cash offered from New Ulm chapter of the Isaac Walton League. And finally, for the nomination process of Herman Monument as the National Historic Landmark, we have $2,000 cash offered from the Herman Monument Society. So the grand total there is $4,050 in cash and $10,000 in a pledge for the German Park Performing Arts Center. I recommend that you forward this on to the City Council for their acceptance.
And one item for Director Schmitz, he knows it's going to come up at council. I mean, we said go out and get as much money as you can when this did come back to us, getting it done this year with those people wanting to pull their pledge. You know, bring it up to the Park Commission or whoever, down to the event it comes to, okay, 10,000, the city must match. I mean, they're going to look to Tom first. Is there any money in your budget for that?
I would say that whether it's our annual budget here in 2019 or our fund balance, that we would be able to match that. I would also add that in the past, the city council has authorized matching donations. We've had the first $135,000 in cash and pledges was matched by the
Was matched,
city.
correct.
So that in the kitty, so to speak, in the account, there's already $135,000 of city funds. So I would recommend at this point that we accept these donations and Dr. Ann's pledge.
All right, any more discussion? Otherwise, do we have a motion?
I'll move acceptance.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second that we accept the donations and the pledges as listed here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next order of business is the Allina Health Grant.
Thank you, Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. This has been a bit of an annual request. Allina Health, through their Neighborhood Healthy Connection Grant Program, has some funds available, and the Park and Recreation Department has been a wonderful grantee in the past, and we're very thankful for that. And we plan to apply again for this grant of $10,000 to fund the Rec on the Go summer seasonal program, in which we bring park play to many different areas in the community. It would also fund our adult-child yoga program in the parks during the summer. This was a huge success. At least Rec on the Go was initially its first season last year in 2018, and it was a great success, going to a variety of different parks and providing activities to youth throughout the community. It's been a great partnership with a number of different organizations, including School District 88, Community Education, and ECFE, the New Ulm Library, the New Ulm Medical Center, Pro Kinship for Kids, Spots, and a number of other groups that have partnered with us in the past on the Rec and the Grow mobile programming. There are no matching requirements related to this Allina grant. And as we have done in the past, this would be free programming and free activity for the youth and for the community as a result of the generous grant from Allina Health. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those, but I highly recommend that you forward this on to the City Council for their authorization for us to apply for this grant.
Is the Rec on the Go program, is it contingent on getting the grant, or is it going to be either way? Hard to say at this point.
Well, that's what we use to be able to offer that program for free.
Sure.
And that serves underserved areas, like on the outskirts of town, and some of the areas where people might have bigger challenges to get to a program.
Okay. Any other questions?
And just for clarification too, 2 years ago, we did the adult yoga in the park. It was adult child yoga in the park. It was a huge success. If we get the grant, we would want to run a similar program. It may not all be yoga, it just may be exercise in the park. It just depends on getting the staff on board and what they're able and willing to teach, so to speak.
Okay. All right. We have any other discussion, otherwise a motion?
Move adoption.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we apply for this grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That ends our new business. Next to Director Report. Director Schmitz?
Thank you, Chair Vorwerk and Commissioners. You know, there's a lot of information in the agenda packet and on the agenda itself with projects and programs that we've completed, projects that are in the process, in which purchase orders have already been issued, and then a number of other projects and ideas that are still in a preliminary planning phase. I'd like to point out that since we're in 2019 and the budget's adopted, we're moving forward with 2019 projects. I guess the largest non-renew project in 2019 is the boiler replacement project at the Recreation Center. So we're in the process of preparing an RFP for design services, and we will send that out to HVAC design engineers and come back to the commission and the city council to award that design project. And then we plan to hopefully have that construction take place this summer. So that's a really big project that's long overdue. It's the boilers in the building are 40 years old and beyond their estimated lifespan. So we're very excited to save energy with a new efficient system that'll be coming in this year. Additionally, another significant item this year is the glockenspiel. We're planning to replace the last of the figurines. I think we've had a 5-year program to replace the 20 or so figurines at the glockenspiel, so we'll be doing that here in 2019. I think we've got 5 more figurines to replace. And then the control system, which is an older analog system we plan to replace with a new digital system. So that's another facility that's going to see some improvements this year, and hopefully we won't have to deal with figurines and control systems at the glockenspiel for a number of decades into the future.
Are those figurines supposed to last quite a while?
Yes, you know, our existing ones are kind of a paper mache type material, and the new ones are a fiberglass and epoxy material. So other than those 2 updates, I want to make sure that you know we have the new program season has begun. The brochures are out. If you would like a hard copy, we have those available. It's also on the city website. So the winter, spring programs and activity guides are out and active. So please take a look at those and share those and get signed up for swim lessons or dance lessons or any other activity you might be interested in. I don't know if we have any other questions or comments or updates at all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
being new, I'm not familiar with the section called, so I noticed that there's several shelters listed in there, park shelters. So are these projects funded and just in the planning stages to be completed, or is this more of a wish list?
It's a great question. These are not funded projects or adopted projects. These are projects that that staff has reviewed and continues to review, and at some point, more information will be coming forth to the commission and ultimately the council. So, no, these projects are not funded and not authorized at this point. They're just components and elements in the system that staff is aware of, needing updates or replacements, or in some instances, you know, the new parks, the new neighborhoods that don't have a park yet. So that's what that list is about.
I had one question. You have on your ball field irrigation at Washington Park. Are we talking the football part where the kids play football, or what?
Yeah, the small, you know, small baseball and football area there on, what would that be, Washington and 8th North,
Right.
that quadrant of the park.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we had a partnership with NUAX a number of years back to work on turf there, seeding and fertilizing. And there's an opportunity for improvements there because we don't have irrigation. There's not a fire hydrant in that park either, which we could tap into for irrigation. And so we need to work on the actual water supply at that park first. So that's just an idea at
Okay.
this point.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, any commissioner reports? Nobody has anything? Our next meeting will be February 11th, 2019, 4 p.m. here. And if there's nothing else, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.